Hi guys, we're the Jersey Concrete, and on today's episode, we are talking WandaVision Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. I hope you guys are ready for an awesome recap and all the Easter eggs that you might have missed.
Hey guys, Chris and Rob here. We are going to break down WandaVision Episode 7 right now with all the recaps, all the Easter eggs from this episode. We got a lot to go through. Let's get started with some Rob's recaps, and as always, we're going to throw some Easter eggs at you right in the middle of all this, and hopefully we get them all. If we don't, let us know.
Exactly. This is your spoiler warning, guys, because we can't talk about this episode and the Easter eggs without spoiling it because it was just too good to be true. We got to talk about the intro. Again, we're moving forward in the TV universe. This is like the early 2000s, so there's a lot of family tropes of talking to the camera and The Office. The theme song is even very similar to The Office, right?
Yeah, it's very like, it has kind of that Office background. It's almost like just enough not to be plagiarism or get sued by NBC. And it also has some Modern Family tropes as well. The logo kind of turns white and orange, which was the main logo for Modern Family. And as we see throughout the episode, as Rob's about to talk about, Wanda and Agnes and certain people who are talking to the camera is very much like Modern Family in this like interview style, mixed with The Office as well, though they do the same thing.
The one thing I did want to point out, in the intro, there was a lot of it saying Wanda, 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 and then right at the end it said WandaVision, right? Yes. So showing that Wanda's the huge focus of the episode, which she was.
Yeah.
And two, maybe further ramifications. I'm not really sure. But we do know that Wanda's world is falling apart. So Wanda's in bed. She's exhausted. She's laying down. The kids wanted to come and, play and do stuff. And then she looks at the camera, and this is, part of that trope that she's doing. And then she's like, I'm fine. We've all been there, right? We've all expanded the borders of the false reality that we have created because we had to. And I'm like, no, I don't. It stays in my bedroom. Like, this is my false reality. That's it.
Can't say I have, Wanda.
And then, like, she rips over the cover. She's still in her superhero outfit. The twins, they ran upstairs to talk to their mom. The games are the same, and there was something going on wrong with the game. It switches from a Wii to an Xbox, a PlayStation, to NES, all the way down to Uno cards, right?
Yes.
So her world and the structure around it is not keeping up anymore.
No, it's not. And we see Wanda's in this bed. The hexagon is a big shape of the show, right? The hex itself is a hexagon. Her bed sheets actually have hexagons all over it, all her bedding. So, like, she's kind of hiding under it, like, oh, I need a me day, kind of away from this, kind of symbolizing what she's doing in reality, right? She's kind of hiding away from the world in the hex. She goes downstairs. She makes a bowl of cereal. There's sugar snaps. I don't know. To me, that was very direct connection to the snap.
Yeah, I see it.
Of, kind of that correlation of that's what's kind of feeding her right now and feeding what she's doing, as well as, like, like you said, the kids are kind of breaking down their, like, whoa, what happened? It's a GameCube now. And then now it's Uno cards. Last time we saw those kind of Uno cards, those are like the original Uno cards. Monica Rambeau as a kid was playing Uno in Captain Marvel with the Skrull kids.
See?
So I don't know if that was a direct correlation or just kind of like
I think a happy accident. I don't think they're going into that.
Maybe.
But speaking of Monica, so Monica and Jimmy, they're still driving to the rendezvous point, and, they get an email from Darcy, which says that, SWORD is working on this project called Cataracts, which, is all about bringing back people's visions back, right? Cataracts is like this eye surgery you can't see, so it's a nice play on words. So maybe they're trying to get vision back, maybe make him as a weapon for SWORD, which, a government agency wants to take something and make it into a weapon. I've never heard of it before. It's a very new concept. Monica and Jimmy meet up with, one of Monica's contacts, Dr. Goodner. And she, presents like this. She has the suit ready for her and this pretty much this giant ATV van that's going to break into it that she wanted. Monica also notes that her mother, Maria, would appreciate Goodner's loyalty to her. And Goodner says she's not the only one that she's loyal to.
Yeah, and this was a very interesting scene for a bunch of reasons. And the main one is Monica kind of gives that like good perplexing look that she gave Jimmy when mentioning Captain Marvel. I don't know if this is a reference back to Captain Marvel as well, but, Goodner, I don't think is the aerospace engineer we've all been kind of speculating in the background.
I'm saying that it is, because I don't think they're going to do anything too crazy. I think that's who it is, but we'll see.
I don't think it is. I think Goodner may be this part of SWORD, right? Because they're all these kind of militaried up, and it might be SWORD. I think they might be part of the SWORD regime that left SWORD when Hayward came on board, who were still loyal to, Maria Rambeau's SWORD and the original SWORD and what they stood for, and they didn't want anything to do with Hayward. Also, could these possibly be Skrulls, like the Skrull kids grown up?
Oh, maybe.
Hidden as that, because and Jimmy Woo's there, right? Like they don't know Jimmy. They're not just going to show themselves. So could that be a possibility? We're definitely going to talk more about this later. So make sure you check out our speculation and theories video, because that's going to be a big part.
Exactly. And that'll be up in a couple of days. Now, speaking of, visions and seeing what's reality or not, Vision and Darcy, we got to talk a little bit about them in this episode. We see Vision wakes up in the circus area, and we see Darcy is the escape artist. He finally snaps her out of it, says, hey, you know me, what's going on? She's like, all right, let's get in the car, let's get out of here. They jump in the funnel cake car, they go driving the little hoopty down the street. There's red lights everywhere, there's people crossing. It seems like Wanda is trying to delay Vision and Darcy to get to her, whether Wanda knows this consciously or not. And, they had a very important conversation within the car.
Yeah, they actually started kind of putting pieces together for both of them, right? Because Darcy was out of it when she got into the bubble. She's kind of putting the pieces back together for Vision, who doesn't remember anything before Westview. So she's like, yeah, you died twice, dude, like 3 weeks ago. And he's like, oh, and Wanda had to kill me one of those times? She's like, yeah. She's going.
You saved all of humanity.
I mean, you saved half of humanity or something like that. And then, so now Vision knows he is either dead or was dead. And obviously he still doesn't know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's a big conversation that they had, because now Vision is starting to put the pieces together, and maybe, along with Monica, maybe talks Wanda off the edge. Who knows?
We'll see. All of a sudden, you hear the doorbell knocking, and Wanda says, come in, Agnes. She knew Agnes was coming in. Agnes is like, listen, kids, mommy needs some me time. Why don't you come with Aunt Agnes or neighbor Agnes, whatever terminology she said, and let mommy have her me time. And Wanda's like, yes, okay, take the kids. I'm like, what? Okay, fine. And then she's like, don't worry, kids, I won't bite. And then she looks at the camera, Modern Family style. I bit a kid one time, all right? I bit a kid one time. It's
that
fine.
Was awesome.
And I'm like, oh, is this relating to like Hansel and Gretel and the witch that eats the kids? I was like, oh, funny. That could be a thing.
That could
right?
be a trope. That could
be a little thing.
Just as like a witch correlation.
Exactly, like a little witch correlation. So the kids are at the house, and Billy's like, I like you here. She's like, oh, really? Why? She's like, it's quiet. You're quiet, Agnes. And I'm like, oh, Agnes has psychic warts on her mind, so you can't read it because she knows what the fuck is going on.
Or,
well, I'm not ready for an or. What's the or?
Or Billy reads that she's quiet on the inside because she's not being controlled by anybody.
Oh,
right? Because everybody being controlled is probably on the inside screaming in pain and agony and screaming for help and freaking out, and they're trapped in their bodies without being able to control it. So they're going through the worst psychological warfare you can think
like
of.
Each person is like two people because they're battling ideas and thoughts.
Exactly. And Agnes is quiet on the inside because she is just herself. And Billy, before, if you remember, he was like, oh, it's like really loud. I could hear all these people and stuff like that. So he does make reference to that as well.
Exactly. And then we get a nice quick commercial break, which when it first happened, I'm going to let Chris talk about it, but I just want to tell you guys, I thought it was a real commercial break, and I was about to like get up and get a drink. Heather's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, it's a drug commercial. She's like, Rob, it's WandaVision. I'm like, it's a drug commercial.
Have you not watched the entire series?
I was just watching like regular TV before, and I just got in the habit of it. But
but the that's so funny. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go get a drink of water. So yeah, this commercial is for Nexus, which in the commercial is a brand antidepressant drug. And it's basically, in the commercial says, it claims that anchor yourself back to reality or the reality of your choice. And it also warns you to not take the drug if your doctor hasn't cleared you to move on with your life, which is a very funny type trope to me in a commercial of drugs, where like they just talk fast with all the side effects.
Which we're gonna analyze more in our next video, but I'm just saying, maybe maybe Wanda should have consulted a certain doctor.
I'd focus more on the Nexus word than the doctor word, personally.
Before she did the Nexus, I'm just saying she should have consulted a doctor.
Could be right.
But we got to talk about the Hex and outside the Hex. We're back with Monica. Monica jumps into her cool little spacesuit, gets in her rover, and she's like, let's do this. She floors it into the the wall, right? And then she can't get in, and like the reality's being rewritten. She has to jump out. She jumps out. The car flips over, gets spewed out. It's a half pickup truck from 1950, and then like a regular weird like space mobile. And then she's like, "Okay, that happened."
Yeah, that was actually really cool how that spit it out, and it was like half a truck, pretty seamlessly too. It was pretty awesome. And yeah, we see Monica. She's in this kind of space outfit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, thought it was very Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel comic style, which yes is the obvious one as well. And she had the white and black with the lines were very correct.
Yeah.
To me though, in the spacesuit, she had like a sword circle symbol.
She did
on her chest with the entire outfit. That to me looked way more fantastic for her.
Oh, I thought you just said fantastical. I was like, yeah, it does.
Well, yes, it looked fantastical. Also, that rover to me looked very like Fantasticar. Reed Richards built like hands down something he would build. No idea if that's anything.
Maybe he made the schematics for that aerospace engineer to make. It could be. I don't know.
Maybe. We don't know yet, but yeah, that's definitely something we're going to talk about in theories and speculation as well. So definitely make sure you check out that video as well.
You want to hear some crazy stuff, guys? Monica decides to go all Rambo. She's like, "That's it. I'm running in there." And Jimmy Woo was like, "No!" And by the way, the whole internet is exploding about Jimmy Woo and how they love Jimmy Woo. And I was like, yes, he deserves it.
Jimmy Woo.
He's a great actor. He's good in everything he does. But she goes in, right? And she's forcing herself through. And then she starts changing. Her eyes start glowing blue. And I'm like, fuck, I'm wrong. She's getting her superpowers. She's going to be full-time, which is fantastic. But as she's walking, like, we hear voices, right? And then we see, like, different phases of her, like, major life events. So, like, her as a little kid, her in Sword, her as, in the Hex, her identity there. And then Geraldine, and then her now. And, like, she walks forward, and then she comes out, and then she sees the world differently. Now, at first, I was like, okay, maybe she can see all the stuff that Wanda's doing. But no, like, her superpower alias is called Photon. So she's probably seeing the different lights and, like, different light levels or whatever science you want to explain it. And she can see all that different stuff, which was so cool.
Yeah, it really was. And from my perspective, and again, I don't know if this is an Easter egg or true to the show, when she looked into Westview, she kind of saw like the power lines along the side of the road, like telephone lines, and like, I guess either the photon or electricity or the signal. Could that be what Wanda is using as signal to control all the people in the town? Is she using literally power lines like you would like a phone or something? So she was seeing that kind of in a different plane of maybe of understanding. I don't think she fully understands yet because this just happened to her. And we know from prior episodes that Darcy had told her, listen, you can't go back in there. Your DNA somehow has been rewritten, not once, but twice. If you go back in there, we don't know what the hell's going to happen to you. Like, we're still trying to figure out what this is. And obviously she's like, F it, I'm going right
doing
in.
It. Yeah.
And obviously it affected her again. And now, obviously, in my opinion and everyone else's opinion, this is hands down the origin of Monica Rambeau becoming Captain Marvel 2, which we think is she's going to be called Photon, probably.
Correct. You're going to take her mom's moniker, essentially. But Monica is like, all right, I got a mission to do. She's running down the street. She gets to Wanda's house. She confronts Wanda. And she's like, Wanda, hey. Wanda's like, no, what are you doing there? Picks her up and lifts her and throws her up in the air.
And this is the second time that poor Monica's been thrown around by Wanda. Thank God it wasn't like the first time. But she actually stops her and does like the cool superhero landing. She literally is kind of trying to talk her down, as we saw when Wanda walked out of her hex to threaten Sword and threaten everybody. The one she kind of held off on was Monica, right? She turned all the guns to Hayward. Monica was like, listen, I know whatever you're going through is what you're going through, but you can clearly see that I'm the one trying to help you. And I'm not with these guys in that sense of what they're trying to do to you, which she also mentions again with Hayward.
Exactly. She's like, Hayward's going to try to burn everything down and turn you out to be the villain. And then Wanda's like, maybe I already am the villain. And I'm like, oh, Scarlet Witch, don't you do it. You calm down.
Stop it.
Then, Agnes shows up, right? Agnes looks, and Agnes is like, you know what? She's had enough. This is enough. I'm taking her in. No more. And then Monica's like, okay. Then guys, shit gets real. You already know this because you watched the episode. We get inside the house. Wanda's like, all right, I see half-eaten milks and cookies and sandwiches the cartoons are on. where are the kids? And then Agnes is in the kitchen, like, oh, they're running around somewhere. And then I was like, did she eat the kids? Did she eat the children? I was like, no,
you got to stop reading Hansel and Gretel.
I read it a lot. I read it once a day. I read Hansel and Gretel once a day. I don't know about you. I read that once a day. Anyway, so then she starts going down the basement. She's seeing vines. She's seeing tendrils, right? It's magical. She gets down into the basement.
It's magical.
It's a magical, mystical area. There's symbols on the side of the room. I was like, they look familiar. I don't know what they are. I'm not spending 4 hours to do it. In 2 days, somebody's going to tell me, and I'm going to tell you. Don't worry about it. And then we're like, uh-oh, what's going on? And then we hear, Wanda, Wanda, Wanda. I'm like, oh, Agnes. Agnes is like, did you think you were the only magic girl in town? And then Agnes formally introduces herself as Agatha Harkness, and then we hear this banger of a song.
It's awesome.
Agatha gets the theme song. It was Agatha All Along, which is direct homage to Monsters. I'm a big fan of the Monsters.
Yes.
And then we see her behind the scenes. She's like, oh, she's the one filming everything. In this episode, she does this, she does that. She killed the dog. Like she's behind everything, man.
Yeah, we thought she killed the dog early on too.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things we were talking about. I was like, was it just Agnes who probably killed the dog? If you ever read Tom King's Vision, you know that the dog Sparky is in that run, and he eats this flower, which we'll definitely talk about as possibly within this show since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of kills him. And yeah, Agatha Harkness, which everyone kind of knew. It was a very much well-deserved confirmation reveal.
Correct.
I think is the best way to say it. And her reveal, like from the talent show, right, with Mr. Scratchy, like Senor Scratchy running around, causing chaos, to Herb cutting into the wall. That was her.
She
as
messed
well.
with Herb. We saw that she messed with him,
messing with Herbs. And Pietro, which was one of the biggest things, was a manifestation of Agatha.
Well, we don't know. I'm assuming it is, but we saw magic from him, like from behind, right? Mm-hmm. And she was definitely like doing some crazy stuff. Yeah,
no, he appeared when she did it. I think it's 100% that.
I think so too.
So when we go down into this ridiculously cool like dungeon, it looks basically like a satanic chamber, right?
It does. It looks
There's
like a satanic
hexagons
chamber
everywhere, which we all know hex is the shape of the show.
Hex is 6, 6 plus 6 and 6 is 666. It's the devil. Mephisto is her husband, whatever his name is. Ralph.
Maybe. Who knows?
I don't know.
And we have also these kind of gold weird symbols in these hexes.
Gold is demons.
There's also this like kind of goat head, which is a huge like demonic symbol. There's like a goat head on the wall, and obviously everything's purple now, right? The second we see Agnes in the show, she's in purple, and I'm like, this is going to happen today. Mm-hmm. And we see this glowing book on the shelf as it pans over, kind of right before Agatha introduces herself and takes over Wanda's mind.
Do you know what that book is?
I do.
What is that?
I do know what the book is. I believe it's the Darkhold.
The what?
The Darkhold. It is the...
the Darkhold. H-O-L-D, not H-O-L-E, not my dark hole.
Not the dark hole.
The dark hold.
They're in a dark hole right now in the dungeon.
That D, my man.
Yes, the dark hold. All
right, what is that?
Is the book. It was like this glowing, ancient-looking book. Okay. In Marvel Comics, that is kind of the book of magic. It's one of the most original books of magic. It's also, in comics, how we get werewolves, how we get, like, Dracula and vampires, which we know Blade is in the work.
I'll be a werewolf.
Possibly, another werewolf character from Marvel is Werewolf by Midnight. They just did a miniseries about half a year ago. They kind of brought that back. Big time 70s character.
Jonah Jameson's son? No, that's somebody different.
No, that's something different. But Werewolf by Midnight is it's a Native American character, actually.
And cool. Okay.
So that is something that Darkhold has, as well as these dark magic rituals. It was originally mentioned in S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't think Kevin Feige kind of connects S.H.I.E.L.D. as canon anymore. So this is kind of like the new Darkhold. And the last thing, which is really big, Rob, which I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, what's up?
Is the Wundagore Everbloom flower.
Yes, this is something that like you for some of your Uber Marvel fans, you might have been like, oh, Agnes and this flower. We just didn't want to bring it up until like we knew a little bit more. But tell me a little bit about this flower. I don't know anything about the flower.
So I'm starting to think this is way bigger. And we mentioned that, the dog in the comics died because he ate this flower.
Yes.
And I've been trying to piece stuff together. And now it seems like this flower may be the key to this entire show.
Oh.
In the sense of, and I know this may be a theory or speculation, but this one's going to be done
this is
right
fun
here.
to talk about right now. Go ahead.
And the Wanda Everbloom flowers, basically, Agatha Harkness grows these flowers to help, like, control people and to help, different things. And they have certain poisons in them. I think, like, Sparky got into the flower and she killed the dog so it wouldn't ruin the flower. Mm-hmm. But if you go back to episode 1, she shows up with, like, a ficus to Wanda's house.
She does.
She... when she brings the food over, she brings like flowers randomly, and there's random flowers in her garden. She's always gardening. The latest episode we just saw, she offers Wanda tea. Tea is made with herbs. Could that be in the flower? Wanda's taking pills randomly. Could she have put those in there? Like, there's all these kind of hints and different items in the house and different things that are going on when Agnes is around Wanda that connect to this flower. So is, I think, a big question, which that one we will answer the next episode, is Wanda really doing this, or is she being controlled fully by Agatha Harkness?
The one thing I want to address with this flower before I get to my final point on what happened in the episode.
Now for my final thought.
The purpose of the flower, right? It's like there's a little trope. Like, you could see the future because of this flower. Yes. And you have to consume it essentially twice.
But it's always bad, right? The future?
Not when necessarily. You eat the flower? You can see the future, period, kind of deal, right? And then what happens and what you see varies depending on the storyline, right? So you have to eat it twice. So first after hunger, and then first after murder. And essentially, from our understanding of the source material, when you first eat that flower, right? So the dog eats the flower. Then you have to kill the dog and eat the dog, and then you can see the future.
Oh.
So that could be what's going on. Maybe with the kids, they do something. There's a whole weird speculation of what we could do. And, guys, we're going to have to sit down and deep dive into the theories later.
Absolutely.
Last thing I want to talk about, there's a mid-credit scene, guys. After all this time, after 8 minutes, there's a mid-credit scene. And if you missed it, go back and watch it, because I missed it my first go-around. And it wasn't until Heather said, hey, something happened. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So we go to the mid-credit scene. We see Monica's perspective. What's going on? Monica's like exploring around Agnes's house, seeing what's going on, opens the basement door, and then we see Pietro there. And then he said, snoopers are going to snoop. And then it cuts. I'm like, what? What do you mean? It's like, did she kill him? Did she knock him on the head? We don't know. The credits start rolling. And
we got some big theory about that one.
We do. But guys, that is episode 7, breaking the fourth wall from WandaVision. Confirmation of a big character coming in, a lot more theories, speculations that we get concrete evidence from. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below. What was your favorite moment from this episode?
And guys, thanks so much for watching again. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're brand new, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any more WandaVision breakdowns. You don't want to miss any more Easter eggs and theories video. Make sure you go check that out. And guys, as always, I'm Chris Heller. That's Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time in Westview.